So strings from chapter 9, you know that strings are multiples of primitive type character. So we're using chars to store a single character that can be a letter, a number, or a symbol. In the difference between a char and a string is the string is what we call a reference type. So if we were doing a memory stack diagram, such as the one in the exam, you would need an arrow. So that arrow would need to go pointing from the string object over to an actual memory location that had the value of the string in it. So that's what we would be looking for. Unlike here, where we've got this memory stack diagram, and this is what they should look like. The memory stack diagram should be a diagram like this, and you should be having pieces here. So that letter A, if we were doing this in text, it could go letter, and then have A here as the value of letter. That would be the memory stack diagram. So if you did like an ASCII memory stack diagram, this is what it would look like for this. We'd go letter, and then we'd have an array, and we would have this point to the values of, so we would want to say that this is a item here, and we're pointing this array over to 3 items here. So that's how that would go out as a memory stack diagram. Same thing for word here. And this is actually going to a string. So the word string word is going to a value, and we'll call it, and that's the full on one, but you can also do that this way as dog. And this is what we would be expecting there too. So you can go that way, or this way will be acceptable too, as in just encapsulating that into the word dog there. So that's what I would expect for a memory stack diagram for those. So these would be the character representations if you were asked for this on an exam, again, on the final exam, for instance. All right. So within here, we've got this, how's the syntax different for the character literals and string literals? So we've got in here, for a character literal, we have the single quotes here for letter equals A with the single quotes. And then for the string word, we've got word equals dog with the double quotes. So make sure you understand the difference between those and how to differentiate between a literal character and a literal string. So that single quote for characters, double quotes for the strings. And so in here, we're looking for the index D of D above. What's the index of that? That is 0. So it would be 0 for, it works just like an array. The character char at 0 would be D. So word.char at 0 equals D. Word.char at 2 is G. So 2, it's the same indexing, 0, 1, 2 for that array here, or this array here in the word cat, which is 3 characters. It's very similar in how it's going to be represented inside of there. Again, the only difference is you're actually having this string encapsulation going over to that inside of here rather than the array directly going into there. So when you say, we're saying encapsulating data, it means that it is containing that data. So that's what we're talking about there. And so in order to access data inside of an encapsulated class, you're going to have to do the reference to it. Array sub 0, that type of thing. So char at for the individual items inside of here. All right. So why can we use the string class inside of Java programs without having to import it like we have to do with, say, the java.util.scanner? Well, it's because it's part of the entire Java package that is getting loaded. It's part of the what we call the default Java package. So that is why we do not have to explicitly import that class. So it is part of the standard Java class, so we can just call it the string methods without having to do an import at the top of our programs. So what's the value of a char variable? So, and what's the variable value of an array variable? And what's the value of a string variable? So let's go do this inside of JGrasp just so we can see what this really looks like. Let's go ahead and put this together and let us go close these. File new Java. Public play static void main args. And let's come into here and let's put these pieces into action here. We've got the items that we had here, and we want to take the char letter. Let's just do this on one line. Equals a char array equals new char array sub T. Let's go here, string equals dot. So now, what if we print letter? What are we going to get? So if we run this, let's save the file, sure. Let's save that. Let's not save it there. Let's save this to desktop. Let's put this in the CS149 folder here. Save this. String.java. Compile it. Run it. And we get the A that we would expect, because that's just a string literal, and we're printing that out. All right, let's see what happens if we take this and print out array. Are we going to get cat printed? No. This is going to actually print cat for this one because we're printing the array, and it's going to actually run what's called the toString method inside of the array by default. So we're actually getting that printed out here. So let's see what happens when we print out word. So we're going to get dog out here. So these three are printing out this way, and this one is printing out all of the characters in this character array. So for over here, we've got these memory stack diagram. This is what we'd expect over here for this string. Hi, let sub x, or let with an x in it. This one over here, will be a string, and it's going to get the same value as string over here. So that's the answers over here for this particular question. When we're working with these, we need to recall with strings that we cannot use that equal operator, because if we use the equal operator, we're going to check to see if the memory locations are the same, not if they are actually the same values. So strings to be equal, you would have to have the string pointer pointing at the same thing. And then for character arrays, there is a dot equals method to see if the arrays are equal to each other. The contents of the arrays are equal to each other. Also for arrays, it's same thing. equal is only going to be the case if they're pointing at the same thing. So if they're both pointing at the same thing, then it's going to be the arrays are equal to each other value or memory location wise. But if they're containing different things, they would not be equal to each other as well. So to do that other determination if they're equal, we have to look at each element in both of the arrays. So if we have array 1 and array 2, we have to say, let's look at array 1 sub 0 equals array 2 sub 0, array 1 sub 1 equals array 2 sub 1, et cetera, throughout the length of the arrays. So they have to be the same, they have to be the same length. So that's one of the first determiners that you need to do. Then you need to go through and loop through each and look at both the arrays and look at the values and make sure they're the same. All right. So if we get into here, this one is looking at if string contains a string hello world, then what is the return value of the following method calls? So you can go through there and kind of look at these and take a look for yourself. I would evaluate those and kind of figure out if you understand why these pieces are what they are. You'll want to look at the char at 6, understanding where the indexing is 0 through the end of the array. You're going to want to look at the length. That's hello world is 11 characters, including that space. So that's the length of it. And then the substring from 4 to 7 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's O. 5, 6, 7 is OWO. So that's where we're getting that OWO as the substring of 4 to 7. Then to uppercase, we're going to go hello world. So that's what the to uppercase method does. And make sure you understand how to use that dot operator in calling those methods. That means I want to take the string class and apply this method from the string class to this variable. So str.charat means I want to take the charat method of the string class and I want to apply it to the string char or str. So make sure you're understanding those pieces. Again, this equals and compares to. You should go through this exercise if you still aren't familiar with that or understanding that well. This is a good one to understand what's pointing to what, and you can run through that to see what the output will be on that one. And similarly with the common mistakes here, you want to make sure you're understanding how these mistakes happen and what the issues are with that. I'm not going to go over this in depth here. The answers are over here. If you don't understand something, please let me know. Talk to one of the TAs in TA hours. Again, those are still available throughout the semester here. All right. Last thing I wanted to get into, I'm probably going to remove this Spring 20 setup for Eclipse because that's not going to be a good Eclipse setup because it's going to be last semester's with the old check style pieces in place. So we'll probably want to do a new one for the fall semester here since we used a different style sheet. But I'm going to go through Lab 17, a little bit of it, at least the first part of it, and then I'll let you guys finish that out for the homework a piece of that's due on Sunday. So that's the two things due Sunday: homework 8, 1 and 2, and then Lab 17 will also be due Sunday in Auto Lab. So that'll be that. And then we'll be getting into chapter 10. So the chapter 10 reading quiz will be due next Tuesday. So 2 chapters to have read this last couple little bit here. So that's why I didn't count chapter 9's reading quiz. You can just look at chapter 10 and that reading quiz will be counted and it will be due on Tuesday. So make sure you get that one turned in as well. And I'm going to have a few less things we do next week as far as some of the labs and things, and then we'll have chapter 9's homework will be due the 15th. I moved that back. Same with chapter 10 will be due the following week. So we're going to actually have it where we follow the week a little bit because of where the exam had to go across 2 weeks, and I didn't want to do it too early or too and shift that recursion chapter. I may just skip doing a little bit more on the recursion and then shift these next semester. I really don't know that I liked how we wound up having to do this across 2 weeks and how this shifted out. I do like the fact that we're pushing back some of the assignments because I think some of these are going to be easier to do after having read the chapter and having gone through the lecture on the chapters than not. So that will be too bad, I think. So hopefully that'll be an advantage to you guys having seen it that way. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and download Eclipse here. Let's go ahead and go into this Lab 17. So throughout the semester, we've been using classes from the Java Platform Standard Edition, or Java SE for short. That's what we've been calling Java, is the standard edition. The source code for this is freely available. It's out there. And Oracle, Sun Oracle, originally developed by Sun and James Gosling, and then taken over by Oracle when they bought out Sun. They have that available for free out there for source code. As far as licensing now, Oracle just changed how you license your Java install. And so there's an open source Open JDK, or Java Development Kit, and then there's the commercial one that Oracle supports and that actually is now licensing for commercial support too. So understand how that works. There's some open source code for Java, but then there's also a commercially supported Java. So real world Java code is being done in a lot of IDEs like Eclipse. So this is why this is what I call the Cadillac of, maybe Mercedes would be a good example. And then you've got your Rolls Royce, which is that IntelliJ IDE, because that thing costs an arm and a leg to buy a license. Annual licenses are, I think, like $300 for an annual license for that. And so it's something that over time is going to cost you an arm and a leg. And many companies are going to buy it for you as a developer if they like the IDE enough for you to use it. Others are just going to say, go use the free Eclipse. And so you'll see a lot of organizations use Eclipse. So let's go ahead and start this up. If you want to do this at home and install this at home, you could go over to this link to the Eclipse IDE over here. I've downloaded in my version. I'm working with an older version because I have an older version of Java. I have version 10 of Java installed because that's what's running on Autolab. And so in order for me to compile things to be run on Autolab, I tend to use that older version of Java. So if you want to, and yours is a newer version of Java, you can feel free to download from here and just click on the download and then download package here and go to grab the latest version over here for your OS here, the 2020-09. This was developed in and released in September. That was just a couple months ago here. So I'm using the 2020-06 version, 4.16 as they call it. So I've gotten into there and I've downloaded this version. What we want is this Eclipse IDE for Java developers, and then you would click on this or this, any of these links that you're getting here, and then do the proper installation of that. If you just go through that, it shouldn't be too difficult to do. It's just going to ask you to copy it to somewhere or install it to somewhere. You can use most of the defaults on that and get through no problems. All right, I'm going to go ahead, and since I've already installed it on my computer, I'm just going to go load it. So I've got, like I said, the 2006. I'm going to work with the standard default workspace. It's in my user directory under Eclipse-workspace. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to launch it. And it's going to load. And hopefully it's going to take me to this welcome screen. Yes, good. Over here. So we're going to, over here, we'll use this, create the Hello World application. So this Eclipse works with something called workspaces. So these workspaces are basically Eclipse's way of organizing your Java projects and your folders for your projects. So it's a collection of the projects and all the settings in the project, and you'll do a separate workspace for each course you take. Like this workspace we just worked with would be the CS149 workspace. The project is going to be all of like your assignment. So lab 17 would be a project that you would want to work with. Homework 9 would be a project you would want to work with. So the workspace is your CS149 Eclipse folder. And then under there, you're going to have your projects, which are your individual actual assignments. So this one's going to be Hello World. Let's go into this, and we're going to follow through this piece. And it's going to say the cheat sheet shows you how to create the famous Hello World application and try it out. We've done this already in the class. The first day of class we did this, but we're going to do this again in Eclipse because it's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and click to begin. So if you're not already in the Java perspective, in the main menu, select Window. So we're going to select Window, and we're going to go to Perspective, Open Perspective, and we want to do the Java browsing perspective. So let's go ahead and do this though. And we can click on that to perform this task, and it will take us to there, and we'll want to create a Java project. Here, we're going to call this Hello World as our project name. One of the key things here, this is going to be very key, and it's detailed over here on the right, is the one thing we don't do is we don't leave this default, this create separate folders for sources and classes. That would divide these up into an SRC and a class directory, which they love to do this in Eclipse because it helps to organize things in different ways. So are we not using JGrasp anymore? No, you can feel free to keep using JGrasp. I'm just introducing Eclipse as an optional piece. So the only time I'm really going to use it explicitly maybe is today. I may even use JGrasp for some things. As you saw for that one example I just used, I went into JGrasp because it was faster. And it's easier to set up a quick little example in JGrasp than to set up a whole project in Eclipse. And I'd have to do that if I wanted to do anything. So no, you don't have to use Eclipse. You can continue to use JGrasp. You can continue to just use a text editor if you wanted to do your Java programming. So there's no requirement to use Eclipse. There are certain things that are going to be a lot easier to do though. Unit testing, and then as you go into 159, if you're moving on to that, you would be doing what's called unit testing and then coverage testing. I'll get into that a little bit after we get Eclipse set up, because Eclipse allows you to do that coverage testing in easy ways, and it's a lot easier to do that. So the one thing we want to make sure we do here though is this use project folder as root for source and file sources and class files. If you do not do this, you're stuck using Eclipse for this particular project or any particular project. If you use this piece where you use project folder as root for source and class files, you can actually switch back and forth between JGrasp and Eclipse without any problems. So let's go ahead and do this, and we're going to click next here, and it's going to take us to the next question, and all these should be fine. So we'll go ahead and click finish, and it's going to build over here our Hello World project, and we see nothing else in there yet. So now we're going to create a Hello World class here. And we're going to want to do this new Java class button. So we're going to go up here to File, New. And we're going to say we want a class here. So that's what we're going to do, create a Java class. And we're going to call the class Hello World inside of the Hello World project. One of the nice things that Eclipse does is it allows you to select some of these pieces and allows you to automatically put in which method do you want to create. I want to create a main automatically. I want to generate comments automatically. Let's go ahead and click finish and see what that'll do. So that's going to be the one that is very important. Again, this put the class files in this project folder. If you don't do that, you're going to have some issues there. All right, let's go ahead and click finish. We're going to create our hello world.java, and that automatically created our hello world.java. It created an extra comment up here for our class. So I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to go ahead and come into here and create my Java doc. And you can now start to leave this author as your EID because it's going to automatically put that in. If it's your username, it's going to put your username from your computer into there typically. And I put mine as my EID so that it will do that. At version, and we're going to say 11/5/2020. We could actually say 11/8 since that's the due date here. And I have abided by the JMU honor code. You'll have to put those pieces in. All right. Then you can see here, it's already built in this Java doc for our method as well. So we just have to come into here and we have to say main method. And then we've got @param args already built into there. And then we can go command line arguments, space there. And then now we've got this already built piece here too. That is the piece for the main. So one thing though, as we're looking through this, we have not fixed, it's still doing some other styles where it's doing 4 characters and it's also got these tabs. You can see in here, this is what a tab character looks like, this little double arrow piece here. Inside of mine, I've decided to show those. So now I can actually see inside of Eclipse. I wish JGraphs had this because then you could see the characters and if it was a tab or a space. This is a tab, so we need to correct that. So I'm going to go ahead and skip down here inside of this project down to some of the settings here so we can configure some of the settings. On the Mac, it's Eclipse preferences. On the Windows or in the others, it would be window. Over here in window, there's preferences here for Windows computers or Linux computers too. So if you come up to Eclipse preferences, and I think the Linux version may actually follow the Mac a little bit more. So we want to come into this general settings and we want to go into editors and then text editors. And we're going to come into here and we're going to configure some things. We want to do a tab width of 3. We want to insert spaces for tabs here. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got my show print margin on to 80 so I can find that 80 character thing so I can see where that's going to hit over there. I really like that feature in Eclipse too. We're going to show line numbers. I'm going to set up this show white space characters, and this shows spaces and also tabs. If you don't like that and it's you find it too cluttered and messy, just disable that. But I'm going to show you how to enable it. You can click on that piece there to enable it. I'm going to hit apply in here. The other thing I'm going to come into here to do is I'm going to go into appearance, and then here's where you can select your dark theme, a classic theme, a light theme. You'd have to restart the thing to get it to change that though. So I'm not going to do that. I'm already in the dark theme, so I'm happy with that. So I'm going to hit apply here, and it would ask for a restart if I had actually done something that actually needed that. So let's go ahead and close this. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and do is while I'm down here at this point, I'm going to show you how to install check style into here. So in order to do that, I would come over here to this. This is the optional part of the lab, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, just so you can see this getting done. So if I come over here to help, I've got this install new software, and this Eclipse marketplace is where I'm going to go get and find check style. So I'm going to come into here and I'm going to go search on the internet for the check style plugin. Just typing in check style and then go, and that should search for the marketplace to see if I can find it. It's this check style plugin, the LGPL, Lars, Koderich, and so he's the one who's developed this. It is definitely the one, and you can see 501,000 installs of this thing. So this is the one we want to install. And I have to click yes to the agreements here and click finish, and that should install check style. Installing, so yes, I can't verify the validity. That's okay. I trust that one. I need to restart my Eclipse. Let's go ahead and save this. hello world, and then I'll restart. And that should now bring me in with the ability to add check style to this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Then let's go to we've got this cheat sheet we were working on. Let's go ahead and load back our perspective. I'm going to go there and go to the Java default perspective. Let's go into here and let us. So I think we've added everything into here but this print statement here for the hello world. So I'm going to just go ahead and be done with that, and we'll do this over here, system out. And you can see Eclipse actually brings up some cheat sheets here that will allow you to do some things for out dot, and I want to go out, system out. It's going to bring out all those things, and then it's going to go print line, and it's going to show you different pieces about the print line method, or different ways to call the print line method. So this is why we kind of didn't go into this to begin with, because when all those things are popping up, I feel like it can be a little confusing if you're a beginning programmer. And so that's why we did not start off with Eclipse from the very beginning, because it can do these suggestions and other things that can kind of take you down a bad path. World is what it's going to want to do, and let's go ahead and save that. And again, you can see this red line for those pieces there, and showing you the 80 character line, so you can see where you are as far as those comments that go beyond 80 characters. Again, this default package here that is this hello world.java. All right, now in order to run it, you click this green run button here. So notice I don't have to compile anything. That's because Eclipse is doing what we call constant compiling. Every time we finish typing something, it's actually doing a compile. So you can see here, this intelligent compiling says multiple markers can't be resolved, because that's just junk. So this is where, if you were to compile it, this is what in JGrasp you would get this multiple markers are at the line, because this is garbage and we want to get rid of this before we can actually run it. So you have to get rid of that. And then if you see no red or yellow marks over here, it is compiled. So you can then hit this run, and it will run. It's going to say, we want to save that source, yes, and then it's going to run it, and your output is going to be down here in this bottom section console over here. If there were problems, you could see them over here. The Java doc is over here, and this will actually allow you to generate the Java doc and then preview it if you wanted to do that. I'm not going to do that right now. The other thing I want to do is set up the check style and also the formatter. So let's go and look at that. There are two things here. So this formatter, I'm going to right click on this and download the linked file as, and I'm going to call it CS149 formatter on the desktop. And what I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to Windows Preferences, or in here, my Eclipse preferences on the Mac. And then I'm going to go to Java. Then I'm going to go to code style here. Let's go ahead and bring this to 50% so you can see what I'm doing here. Let's close this out real quick. Let's bring that to 50% so we can see what's going on here. All right. So we've got this Java code style, and we want this formatter here. And we can load in a formatter that's going to format automatically the 149 style that we want. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to import that XML file that I just downloaded, the CS149 formatter. Open that. Okay. And it's going to pull in here into the CS149 format. And I'm going to say I want to use this one as the format that I'm using here for CS149 formatter. And then I'm going to hit apply and close. Then I can come over to here and I can hit on, it's Control-Shift-F on Windows computers. On the Mac, it's Shift-Command-F. And so if you hit Shift-Command-F, it's going to actually change all those tabs to spaces, and it's going to do all of the formatting for my items here. So let's do this to just show you that this is what it's going to do. If I had that out there, if I did Shift Command F, it's going to actually put that and indent it for me exactly the way I want it. So now I'm going to save that. That should now be according to the, this should be according to style, exactly how we want things check style wise. The next thing we need to do here is inside of our Eclipse preferences, we need to set up our style checker. So we're going to come into here and we're going to go into check style here, now that we've downloaded this. And we're going to load in the, I'm going to create a new one off of the external configuration file. I'm going to call this CS149, and I'm going to go browse to my folder on my desktop where I've got my CS149.xml, the file that we use for our check style that we downloaded a long time ago. Mine is over here under CS149, and I want mine as CS149.xml. I've had this one for a long time, so it will be here. Let's go do this in alphabetical order. That'll make it easier to find a little bit. Let's see, I've got too many of these though, so still going to be kind of hard. CS149.xml. Okay, open that. And this is the one I want to use as my configuration file. I need to do that. Then I need to go over here and I need to make this the default. So I'm going to set this at the default, apply and close. And then I'm going to rebuild the project, and that's going to make it actually allow me to use check style. In order to apply check style so that it checks things, I need to come up to the project level here and apply check style from the project level on down to all my files. So I'm going to right click on this, and it's going to give me a properties here for the project. And I want to come into the check style here for this project. I want to activate check style for the project. But what I want to make sure I do is over here, I want to exclude from checking these generated files. So if I don't do this, it's going to try and check my class files and some of the other project related files for JGrasp, for Eclipse. It's going to try and check the style for those. Yes, so for Lab 17, you can still use, if you have to, JGrasp. I'm just trying to get those who need to use Eclipse or want to use Eclipse and want to learn how to use it for next semester, some experience with Eclipse. So Eclipse, totally optional from here on out. Okay, if you don't hear anything else today, hear that you can continue to do everything you did before on JGrasp. So you do not have to use Eclipse, do not have to use it at all. I'm just taking today, for those who are moving on to 159, you will definitely want to have experience using Eclipse. And so I'm trying to get you some experience for the rest of the semester if you want to using Eclipse. And I may use Eclipse for some of my examples from here on out. So that's the other thing that may happen as well. So I need to make sure I take this derived generated files and exclude those. And I'm going to go ahead and say files not opened in editor because I want to just check the ones that are open in my editor. So let's go ahead and apply this, hit yes. Then I can go ahead and see if there's any problems from a style standpoint. I think I've done this pretty well so that there shouldn't be any. So let's go ahead and right click and do check style and activate check style and see if there's any issues here. And we can right click and we can go check style and we can check code with check style. And I don't think there's any problems. Otherwise they would be showing up here. Let's go ahead and make some problems here. So let's go ahead and do one of these. Int x equals 1 plus 1. And we'll do that. And this is now going to show me it's going to not like that because I didn't use that variable x. Let's just do that. So we have something in there. Then let's go ahead and check the style again, right click, and let's go check code with check style. Oh, I think this should give me some problems here because it's not. Yes, okay, so over here, I'm getting a problem here. Yes, and this is a check style problem. So this is an example of where this is the check style problem, and it's saying this plus is not followed by white space. So x equals 1 plus 1 would be how we want to do that. Once we fix that, the style error goes away, and you can see it's really hard to read it when that happens. So you'll have to get around that, or maybe change some of your formatting for how you're doing your theme, because the theme can kind of get into places where you can't really see things. But I do like this dark theme, so I'm going to stick with it, even though it's hard to see that check style piece. All right, so that's really this hello world piece. Now I can run this, and it's going to print my hello world in 2, and that is this. The other thing that's nice is you can actually do this collapse of stuff in here, where you were only able to do the highlighting of a begin and end here. You can see this also highlights, but it also kind of highlight the entirety of the block that you're selected on. So that's kind of nice when you actually can see that entire block, and you can also collapse it to be able to work on other code. So that's helpful when you have a begin and end that you're trying to move through code and see something a little bit better. So that's Eclipse and how to format that. I'm going to go ahead and start one more project here, this one for Lab 17. So I'm going to do the creation of this. You'll come up here to File, New Java Project. And again, I'm going to call this one Lab 17. Then I'm going to come into here and I'm going to say use project folder as root for sources and class files. That's the important one. I can hit finish from there. And this is going to create a Lab 17 folder over here. This is another folder. Let me go ahead and go out and show you what this looks like on the desktop. So I'm going to come into here and go into my directory. I'm going to go into my Eclipse workspace. And this is what it looks like from a project folder standpoint. I've got my hello world. This still looks just like the old standard one that we used to do. Let me do one of these projects that is not with the project classes and source files. I'm going to do separate folders for sources and class files. I'm going to say bad class, or let's call this extra folders as the project name. I'm going to click next and see how it's creating this SRC file. And then it's going to say module name and extra folders. I'm going to create a class inside of here. So let's go in here, new class, extra folders is the class file. We're going to do this with it and hit finish. I'm going to save it. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like out here. This extra folders creates this bin for all of your binary files for the class files. Then it creates this SRC for the source files. And it's got this module info.java and some other business that it wants to do for the package. This is why we don't do the other stuff that way, because if you have that, then you can't go back and forth because the class file is not in here for being able to compile it. So if you went in here in JGrasp, it wouldn't do anything with it, or it would have problems doing things. So that's why if you put them in the way we just did, you could go back and forth between JGrasp and Eclipse. So this Lab 17 won't have anything strange. Hello World won't, because I set that up correctly. So that extra folders has the bin and the source folders in here. We don't want to do that for this class. So that makes things, like I said, very confusing. I'm going to go ahead and close this project. I'll close this project too. This is something you may want to do because memory-wise, it's probably easier to only have one project open at a time. I tend to go into my current project and do this close unrelated project. So if you had this project open, and you could go close unrelated projects, and it'll close every other project that's out there that's not related to Lab 17. And so now this J over here means it's the project is open. This is the library for the Java. Now let's go ahead and go back to here, and we'll create this class called string thing. So I'm going to copy that, right click, new class. I want to call this string thing, paste that in there. I'm going to create a main just for testing purposes. I'm going to have it generate some of that piece and then hit finish. So it's going to go into here. This one actually gave me the created a package. I did not really want that. So I can, I probably should specify that. Let's go ahead and delete this and let's recreate it without the package because I don't want a package on this one because that gets really annoying. Create it with the package. So let's go ahead and new class. And I don't want the package here. I want the default package. So this is one thing you probably want to make sure you do is make sure you're using the default package. It's going to complain at you because they don't like it when you use the default package. So let's call this string thing. And that's what we're going to call this one. And we're going to use this default package, not the other one, and finish. And now I only have this. I don't have that package information out there. Again, this just makes it simpler because we're not wanting to work with packages this semester. Next semester, you may work with those and start with those in 159. I'm not going to get into those because they're confusing and it's just some extra Java organizational garbage that you don't really need. Let's go string thing here. And I'm not going to put a lot in here right now just because I want to get this done quickly. Sure you do that. All right, let's go into here. I'm going to go into, I don't need the main actually. So what I really want to do though is I want to set up my stubs in for these other classes, this extra end. So let's go into here, this extra end method. Remember for me, I want to do, I'm going to do public static because we want to be able to call these statically instead of just this way. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to come into here and I'm going to set up that. The nice thing is, did you see how that Eclipse just gave me most of that Java comment, the extraneous pieces here, and I'm just going to copy in here. Be careful when copying in from over here. You may copy some special characters. So they tend to do a horrible job of special characters. This is where this comes in handy, where I can see where my line is and actually cut this over at the right spot here. And let's go ahead and cut it one more time there. There we go. String, input string, and then return. What are we returning? We're returning a string type, and it is for with extra end. Okay, and we're going to return the empty string for now so we can get on to the next one. So that's one stub. This is what I mean when I say setting up the stubs. So let's go to first two here. We're going to set this one up. First two, and again, we want to go public static because we're doing all these as statically called so that we can test them easier. All right, and we're going to call this first two. And we probably want to give some description here by copying some of this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and copy this out to a text editor first so that I don't get garbage stuff in here when I do it. All right. Let's do that, and then let's cut this to the right spots. Do that, do that, do that, and one more. All right, perfect. String, import string. I want to return a string, which is the first two of the original string. All right, so let's save that. And let's go into here and finish out this piece with first half. Notice this one, this particular first half one is going to only do some things for if it says given a string of even length. Well, if it's odd, we want to return the string itself, and we don't want to return the string with itself double the first half. So the way this will work is when you're submitting this to AutoLab, it's going to check if you're having an odd length one, you just want to return the string. It doesn't say that here very well, but that's what it's meaning for you to do here. So let's see if we were to do this one, we'd want to return string here. And so this is going to get us here, and it's going to show us that the first half here, see when it's got an empty string, which is odd length of 0, it's going to return just the string itself. So that's hitting OK here. And so that's what we want to do there. That's the only example of that. They don't give you an odd string as a expected one, which they really should. I think it's in the other tests, but if you don't do this, you'll fail this one, and you'll maybe not understand why, because the requirements are not very specifically well written. So let's do that. Do I have this in here? No, not yet. Let's go ahead and do this one too. Let's see this one. You can see some of these things are going to be a lot easier to do with Eclipse here, because it's helping you to get some of this built. String double if even length. All right. That's good there. Let's go ahead and do the final one here. So we've got one more here that we want to do without end. Let's do this, and we're going to save this into here. Period there, and it's going to complain about that in a couple of the others too. All right. So we've done that. Let's go ahead and set up our check style for this project. We'll go into the properties of the project. We'll go into the check style piece, make it active for this. We're going to get rid of the derived, and we're going to say files not open in editor. We're going to apply and close that. We're going to rebuild our project here. Refresh. Close the project. We'll reopen it. All right. Then open this guy. And now all of a sudden we've got the that clause is empty here. So line 61, we've got a problem on 61 here. We've got a clause here that is empty here. So let's go in and add our main method here, and at param args not used. We can do that, and that'll fix our problem there. So now we can come into here and we can say string test string equals and then we can pass it over to our without end or any of the others, and we can get the results back. So we can say over here to test this, I would say system.out.println. We want to print line the output from first half sub test string. We're going to call the test string with that, and we're going to print it out. Oh, and I need to remember to put the static in here. That's why we do this, so that we can call it like I just did. So now if we do that and we run this, it's going to say woohoo, because we're passing the word woohoo in, and we haven't done anything but returned woohoo, and that's what we're going to get as our printout. But this is allowing you to see the setup for how I would set this up. I'll go ahead and stop the recording here. This is what I wanted to cover, so that you guys can have kind of the setup for this, and you'll need to go into CodingBat, finish these out, then copy some of your code over. You may have to do some cleanup of this, because for this, you're going to have to remember that there's only 2 returns that are allowed within our check style. So make sure you only are using the 2 returns at max inside of here, all those other things. So at the end of the day, if you need to check style over here, you can check code with check style and it'll check it. If there's any problems, it'll show them up in red. With the help of Eclipse, it's been a lot easier to have no style errors because I saw them all along the way. So that's that, and I'll go ahead and stop the recording for the class now. Let's go ahead and stop the share first. And we'll stop the recording.